everybody. I just wanted to talk about some intense transits we have coming up. I'm recording this on the 17th and it's only going to last a few days up about until the 23rd. So there's a lot of things going on in the sky right now with Pluto and Uranus and Mercury. I'm not going to focus too much on the Leo new moon or the Uranus North Node Mercury conjunction Mars conjunction that we're going to be having towards the end of July, only because I think this kind of is reserved for a video of its own as we have this, Pluto opposite sun stuff going on. I am going to be making a separate video for the Leo new moon though, and that one's going to be touching on, how it's going to affect each of the rising signs in depth like I normally do. This video is just going to be about how I can kind of see this, what's going on in the sky playing out collectively, especially if you're in the US. I think a lot of this is a direct parallel to a lot of the things that we're seeing about the government and in the media and just corruption and all of those things kind of culminating to, a collective boiling point in the sky. So what I'm really going to touch on is really just this Pluto and Sun opposition between Cancer and Capricorn. We do have Mercury and Cancer very close in the sky right now. So we know that Mercury is the planet of communication. It's speaking, talking, writing, using your voice. And because it's so close to Cancer, it's combust. And when a planet is combust, meaning that it's very in close degrees to the sun, it's kind of like this, people use the metaphor of burning, like the planet is getting burned under the intensity and the heat of the sun. So while there is a nice little trine between the sun, Mercury, and Neptune, which is typically very harmonious, like very positive, easy flowing energy when it comes to communication, I think in our personal lives, this looks really well when it comes to just explaining how you feel about things in a way that's probably a lot more smoother than it would typically be in like any other season, especially because Cancer is very nurturing and empathetic. It wants to hear how people feel in order to cater to it, as well as needing that vessel of communication itself. However, with the combustion of Mercury playing a role in the intensity of the opposition to Pluto as well, I think maybe more so on a collective level, especially when it comes to the news and media, this might be something that has more of an intense edge. So we know that oppositions are usually just a need for balance between two planets, but because Pluto is so volatile and intense and tumultuous, it's the uprooting of power and control dynamics. And because it's retrograde, meaning to go backwards or to retrace your steps or to kind of dismantle its original effect that it's typically makes, which is having power and control, to have it in Capricorn versus Cancer, which I typically refer to as like the mother and the father, the man and the woman, the masculine versus the feminine type of energy in the sky, it does seem very relevant to things like Roe v. Wade and seeing just our interaction with like needing basic needs and having access to like livable wages and things like that as well, because Capricorn typically does rule like government and structure and authority and what that authority has power over, while Cancer is home and comfort and being able to have something of your own. It's foundation, it's real estate, it's literally having availability to a house and things like that. So the Sun-Pluto opposition is something we've lived through a million times, right? This happens once a year because of the way that the planets transit in the sky. It's not energy we haven't dealt with or survived before, so don't get scared if you hear other astrologers saying like, oh my god, this is going to be the most intense thing. It doesn't have to be the worst thing in the world, and it's not unfamiliar energy. This is things that we've dealt with before. It does happen once a year, like I said, but it's usually an intense buildup and kind of boiling over the surface type of energy when it comes to needing to acknowledge deeper thoughts and feelings. It really makes me think of the saying like what happens in the dark comes to light, along with just again dismantling power and control dynamics. I think it will be a little bit of a collective turning point. I'm explaining Pluto in the natal charts that I give. I always say that it sort of has this like victim to victory complex or victim to villain yourself complex, where somebody who has maybe been a victim of something for too long can either take the route of healing or take the route of absolutely destroying everything in its path, which, to be fair, we can't victim blame. And if we think of that on a collective level, this makes me think of like the people fighting back or the people needing to desperately voice their opinion and to fight against what seems like something that's far more powerful than us. So I do feel like it's, rising over the power, and the sun is kind of reflective of the people as a whole, the collective as a whole. So to have this opposition between dismantling power and control dynamics and structural and authoritative systems versus the people in Cancer and wanting their comfort and to be, able to have accessibility to basic needs and things like that, there is this huge need for balance between the two. Think of like a seesaw, and you can't have, all the weight on one side without being completely imbalanced and needing to find the balance within that opposition. Because both the sun and Mercury are in the final degrees of Cancer, as well as it inches towards that 29th degree, which is often referred to as the anaretic degree, a critical degree. Anytime any planet reaches that final 29th degree of a sign, it's kind of like a culminating point where everything reaches its final form. There's this kind of, again, boiling over the surface, really hitting the top of something type of vibe. So to have it in Cancer, which again, since we started Cancer season, we've been seeing so much intensity. I feel like in our personal lives as well, when it comes to like femininity, home, emotions, things needing to be said, trauma resurfacing, like needing to reveal something that's deep and powerful inside of us, especially on an emotional level. So now adding Pluto into the mix, it's like you need to face it head on. What happens in the dark comes to light. Everything is getting exposed and illuminated, and it can no longer kind of be just like swept under the rug anymore. So I do kind of feel like this is going to be like social and political upheaval. I do think that when we have the Uranus North Node and Mars conjunction, which is going to be, I think, exact on August 1st, I'm honestly a little intimidated for it. I'm hoping it's going to be something good, or at least, needing to have chaos in order to have clarity. But I do feel like this is kind of the preview or the pregame of what we're getting a sneak peek at to come in August 1st. So again, social and political upheaval. I feel like with Cancer, again, being home and family and even like patriotism, like being the land of the free, feeling comfortable in your own country. This is something that is in, again, opposition to Capricorn, which is structure and government. Both of the signs, Cancer and Capricorn, are our basic needs and needing to create a very strong, stable foundation. So to have the retrograde of Pluto involved in this as well, it's going backwards, retracing our steps. I did kind of have like an intuitive thing where I was like, why do I feel like for some reason with Roe v. Wade that they're going to like backtrack their decision or something like that? And of course this dips into like, I don't know, maybe being labeled like a conspiracy theorist or something like that, but I do have a few things that I've been pondering about, in particular when it comes to Roe v. Wade, where I feel like they almost threw that wrench in the mix to see how the people were going to react to it in order to like measure or gauge like our reactionary response when it comes to like protesting and things like that. But I also feel like with it being limited to statewide decisions, that there might be something where there's this chaotic thing where they're like, okay, well, none of the states can get on the same page, and that revoking some sort of like voting process when it comes to, midterm elections, which I hope that's not the case. Of course, that's like based off of literally nothing outside of my brain, so please don't take that to heart, take it with a grain of salt. But I do feel like with Pluto being retrograde, everyone's glossing over that. Everyone just keeps saying, oh, we have the sun opposite Pluto transit happening, and it's like, okay, yeah, but Pluto's also retrograde. We need to take into account that it's literally going backward in degrees, and it needs to go forward again once it goes direct. So I feel like there's almost this like backtracking, double backing, retracing of the steps type of thing where we're getting teased a little bit. And I'm not even talking about just like in the government. You can also like look at this collectively and spiritually, just like with the world in general and in your personal lives as well, where the dismantling of power and control dynamics is prominent when it comes to being able to build a sturdy foundation for yourself, but maybe not fully committing to something yet, or maybe not full sending it, or maybe testing the waters in some way, and not, or even like backtracking on a decision. Maybe you did put one foot in the water and then you were like, okay, I can't commit to putting both feet in, so I'm just going to step back out for a little bit until I'm really ready. That's the type of vibe that I get from this. So on Monday, Mercury is going to be opposite Pluto retrograde. Again, Mercury being the planet of communication, speaking, talking, writing, using our voices, even things like technology and the news and media, things like that. I feel like with Pluto being opposite that, there might be this like intense moment, whether it's on the actual day or just kind of like happening in the next few days, especially again towards that Uranus transit that we're going to be having with Mars in the North Node. I almost think like power outage or like social media shutdown or something. I actually should have looked at the astrology for it prior to this, but remember, like, I don't know if it was a year ago or 2 years ago, but like all of the social media apps just were like out. There was like a shortage for a day or so, and I know that some sort of service provider, I honestly really should have done research for this, but I know that I think it's in Canada, and I want to say I actually know everyone's gonna make fun of me if I say the wrong name, but I know that like some sort of service provider, or maybe it was a gas station or something like that, went out in, I believe, like Canada last week or something. That's the type of energy that I'm getting from it, because Mercury is like our everyday things and environment and people, the way that we consume content, the things that we read, the conversations we have, the emails we send. So to have such an intense opposition to Pluto, especially between Cancer and Capricorn, the people versus the power or the elite or whatever you want to refer to it as, the ones in charge, it feels like there's like a war or tension between the two things, and I could see the way of fighting back, intentionally or not, being like this shutdown, because Pluto is literally death and rebirth. It cuts things out, it destroys things. It's the tower moment that we see in tarot. It's this wrecking ball energy. So it makes me think that it's a snap moment that doesn't have to last a long time, but will make a statement, again, whether it's intentional or not. And I immediately just thought of like power outage or social media things, maybe there being like an alert sent out, or maybe some sort of message that gets like later backtracked or revoked, or like misinformation or something like that could be present as well, because we do have Neptune trine Mercury for, currently, which again is really good and harmonious in a beautiful way. Like in our personal lives, it's like, creativity, poetry, being able to have emotional healing conversations. But Neptune is also hidden information and confusion and, smoke and mirrors, blurred lines, things like that. So I'm wondering if that's going to play into it as well. But on Wednesday, then the sun is going to be opposite Pluto. So again, the sun being the people, it makes me think that there will be two moments. With Mercury opposite Pluto, it's like the exchange of information or news, or a moment that disrupts everyday life, or the typical, everyday quo that we follow. And then the sun being opposite Pluto, 2 days later, is maybe the reaction of that, or the ripple effect of that, or people, coming up with their conclusions after 2 days. How like when anything happens, it spreads on social media so fast, and then there's a million theories. And that sun opposite Pluto moment makes me think of people being like, wait, not so fast, what's happening here? Again, be very mindful and just very cautious. This could honestly just be like an eruption of information, and I feel like, again, people may be desperately wanting to just speak their truth in some form. Pluto people, like Plutonian people with heavy Pluto or Scorpio placements in general, are people that like play this role of bringing light to things that people try to keep in the dark. When I think of Plutonian people, it's these intense people in our lives that people constantly try to shut up, or they try to belittle them, or they try to be like, oh my god, you don't know what you're talking about, because they're desperately trying to expose the truth of matters, even if it like completely dismantles the entire system that's set up. So if we think of that energy of a person who's very Plutonian into a moment that would be very collective for everybody on the same level, that's what it makes me think of, like information that has been concealed or trying to be pushed under the rug, or at least have a veil over it so people don't see it for what it really is, being completely exposed in the shock of the, moment that comes with that. And again, I literally think of the Tower card in tarot. Once the sun enters Leo, though, on Friday, so as we pivot into Leo season, and we have that new moon in Leo, and then a little bit after that we'll have the Uranus conjunction as well with the North Node, I do feel like there's going to be like a newer, friendlier type of energy. I think we will be able to feel the shift, just as we always do whenever the sun enters a new sign. But Uranus, and we know the North Node is like good things, right? The North Node is the more so positive side of the nodes in general, but naturally when anything is close to the North Node, it's also going to be in opposition to the South Node. So again, need for balance between what you're supposed to be letting go of and what you're supposed to be heading towards. So as that Mars starts to climb up towards the conjunction of the Uranus and North Node conjunction on August 1st, I feel like there is this kind of like brewing intensity, but I think the tougher end of it will be these next few days, or at least the more tense moments of it. I'm really interested to see what happens for the next few weeks, because as we enter Leo season again, I feel like on a personal level it's like exciting, new, dramatic energy, but collectively I'm like, what the hell is gonna happen here? Like, I just feel like it's intense moment after intense moment, and I feel like this might be one of the boiling overs. Of course, we've been seeing this just in general since America had its Pluto return, so, earlier of January this year, but because Pluto's so slow, it's been impending for like 2 years, and because Pluto's retrograde, it was directly exact again, similarly to the way that it was in February on the 22nd of 2022, just a few days ago, like a week or so ago. So it's not surprising that, the moments that we felt at the beginning of this year are returning, the intensity of that. But I'm interested to see, because that was when like we were hearing about war and stuff like that with Ukraine at the beginning of the year. So we're right in that same degree orb with Pluto retrograde because it's retracing its steps. So I'm wondering, with Uranus and Mars in the North Node all conjunct each other, that literally equates to unexpected war. Like, that's why I'm kind of like, all right, what the hell is going on here? And I feel like this Pluto opposite Sun is like that, again, preview into something that is probably going to be hashed out much longer than just like a few days. But we'll see what it is. I just wanted to give you guys a little update. Don't worry, don't be stressed out. I know it's hard to like take that with a grain of salt. I've been seeing things too, like I'm in Connecticut, so I'm near New York, seeing things about like nuclear explosions and like this New York warning video, like this informative thing that's like, just stay inside, watch the media to answer your questions and stuff like that. And of course that's not promising to see something like that, especially when it feels like we're already under so much fire and intensity as a country. But just be cautious, guys, especially when it comes to media consumption. Like, get your information from real people that are around when they see things, rather than what's like catered and regurgitated to you in a more digestible, like brainwashy way. So I hope this helped you guys. I'm interested to hear like your thoughts on it as well, what your take is, what your predictions, your theories are. Of course, let's not get off too far into the deep end and start scaring each other, but if you feel like you have something of value to offer up, I'm more than happy to read about it in the comments. But I'm wishing you guys luck, stay cautious, say what you gotta say, even if the delivery is a little bit intense, it'll probably do you good. You've probably been holding it in for a while, and I'll talk to you guys soon.